My bad.
It worked out, man.
Yeah, definitely worked out.
Hey, you know what I appreciate about what you guys have been talking about is you guys create signals and communication, and then the coaches actually pull it in to their game plan. That's pretty cool, don't you think, Ben?
Well, I think obviously you draw things up and it looks good on paper, but in the heat of the battle, things just come up, and at the end of the day, as long as you guys are on the same page, you can make the play work. So, whatever the signals may be, and the good part about it is other teams weren't able to pick up on that. There's certain words that you can say that defensive guys may know exactly what you're trying to do, whether it be a backside cutoff or a double team, but those key words are things that me and Brandon can say to each other and know exactly what the other person is thinking or what they're going to do. It actually ended up helping us in the long run. So, it worked out. It definitely did.
Ben, you mentioned playing with a guy like Kurt Warner, a leader like Kurt Warner, and we just mentioned earlier in the webcast, Carson Palmer. He's just a guy that'll pull a guy over the sideline and just know his personnel, know the way they need to be spoken to and whatnot. What are some similarities you see from Carson Palmer and Kurt Warner leading this team?
Well, obviously you can see the command in the offense. Obviously Carson is really comfortable in the system right now. He's playing at a high level. Kurt doing the same thing, but I think just the ability for him to, make the guys around him raise their level of play. And I know playing with Kurt Warner and playing with a legend like that, you wanted to do your best every single time not to let him down and perform to the best of your ability. So Carson's got that offense running well right now, and clearly the statistics say that he on the same path as Kurt Warner was that Super Bowl year.
Ben, I want to ask you this because I remember Kurt on the sidelines doing a whole lot of yelling at different guys, and in particular the offensive coordinator. Did you see that? Did Kurt get after you once in a while or no?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Kurt would get after whoever, whether it was myself, the coordinator, or Fitz. That's how bad he wanted to win, and that's how bad he wanted the offense to perform well. But at the end of the day, as you can see, his resume speaks for itself. So those are some of those things where Kurt Warner's yelling at you, man, you're not really doing a whole lot of yelling back. You just kind of take that and move on to the next play.
Hey, what was it like scoring a touchdown in a Super Bowl?
Obviously, honestly, I didn't even really, understand the full impact of it because going into the game, when you got Fitzgerald, Bolden, Preston, Eddie James Hightower, the last thing on my mind was thinking that I'd have an opportunity to score. So when the play was called, in the huddle, I literally was just telling myself, please don't mess up. And I probably didn't use those words in my head, but, I was telling myself, just please don't mess up and capitalize on it. And it's something that I appreciate a lot more, the accomplishment, now that I'm, done with the game and my approach is something that I can look back on and appreciate that much more.
Now, Ben, you had a lot of, opportunities to get in the end zone. The guy sitting to our left, not so much. And we talked about it earlier. What would his touchdown celebration be like? And Brandon said it'd basically be like his own personal halftime show. What would that halftime show include?
Ben, tell them I would have been banned from the NFL if I would have scored ever. The way that we used to play in the locker room, the way we used to demonstrate things on the field, just give them a demonstration. Just by using your imagination on what could have been, and my props would have been Rex and Deuce. That's all I had to say.
The one thing I can tell you is it definitely would have been multiple flags, multiple fines for various people involved because BK was pretty creative in the locker room. I can't share everything that, we went through in the locker room, but I can tell you one thing, it would have been entertaining, something that would have probably went up at one of those TO celebrations, those shadow, those single type celebrations.
Did you see Brandon Meebanes yesterday in the Seahawks after the sack in their game? He just did the stomach roll. You think BK would have had one of those?
No, the pads would have came off. I'm telling you, I would have been like the male Beyonce out there.
I think he would have kept it locked.
I'm telling you, I'm putting it out there. I'm telling you,
male Beyonce.
Yes. It'd have been like another part of Magic Mike. I'm telling you, man, I would have sold every. I would have had my own tour after that. Because I mean, if you're gonna go out, you might as well go out with a bang. That's why I said I don't care if that's my only touchdown ever. Like they know not to give it to me on the sneak or a 5 and out. I was going to act a fool, man. That's it. That's the only time.
You got to make it count, man. I mean,
Oh, my goodness.
Be choreographed, like the replacements.
I mean, if you're going to be banned, you might as well go out with, like a legend, so people will all never forget that.
Be like, I'm not sure how he was as a player, but man, that Brandon Keith had one heck of a summer.
That's good enough for me, man. People will never forget it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey, Ben, let me pull you back into a serious question, and this one came up late last night. Obviously, Tyrann Mathieu is out for the season now with a torn ACL. But here's the question that came up. Why was he in the game at that point when the game was in hand? Why was he on the football field?
Well, that's tough, man. That's just a decision that the coaches made, and unfortunately, it kind of it backfired. Obviously, it's catch-22, man. Had that happened early in the game, that question wouldn't have come up. But being that it did happen at that late in the game, and the game's pretty much out of reach for Philly, I can't answer that one, man. I don't really know, and that's going to prove to be a costly injury because that's a big part of their defense. So hopefully, the next guy up is going to be ready to roll. I'm sure Coach Arians will have the guys ready to go, and you can't necessarily replace a honey badger like that, but I'm sure they got some guys in place that can step up and try to fill in for him.
Brandon, what was your take on that?
To me, I mean, like you said, it puts you in a tough spot because you don't know how many bodies they actually had. You didn't know. They just want to throw anybody out there. A lot of times with performance bonus, coaches have to be managers. With performance bonus, you put a guy out there, he could be out there one play, never played all year. It could be a money situation. So a lot of times it's rough when you do make those decisions. Because who's to say, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it could have been Patrick, could have been anybody, could have been a regular starter. I get it, the game is in hand, but some guys really want to be out there. Mm-hmm. And that's why it just, to me, as a player, it's like, if you're up, you want to be out. Nobody wants to be in an uncompetitive game. But you can't just put anybody out there. So it's kind of, a rough spot for the coaching staff, too.
Hey, Ben, let me carry this through now for another question for you, and that is the question of resting players. Now that you've won the NFC West, going into the playoffs, at what point does Coach Arians think about, or does he think about resting players here in the last two games?
Well, I think that you got to kind of take the same approach you would take kind of in that fourth preseason game. You want your guys to get some good work in. Obviously, they've solidified themselves into the playoffs. But I don't think that you want to give the players a complete game off because, it kind of mess up the rhythm and what they're accustomed to. Obviously, if you got guys banged up, you want to rest those guys. But I think you want to try to keep some sort of rhythm going into the playoffs, maybe a half and a little bit of the third quarter, and then maybe shut it down from there. But it also depends on the philosophy of the coach. He may decide not to rest them at all and keep the train rolling. So, it's hard to say.
Well, Ben, thanks very much, man. I appreciate you taking time with us today. That was awesome. Great to hear from you.
Yes, sir, buddy.
Hey, opportunity. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks. Ben Patrick joining us here on the phone, and a former teammate of yours, and obviously that catch in the Super Bowl was huge. And, and it's just fun to hear from you guys, that have actually played and been in the arena and been in a Super Bowl and played at a high level. And it's exciting. I mean, it's fun to see this team where they're at today.
Exactly, and that's one thing that and there's guys that are older than us that are still there. I mean, it's a brotherhood, and it's definitely moments like that. That's why, like I tell every rookie, when you're on a roll, enjoy it because you never know. I remember, being in Super Bowl, like I said, my first rookie year, I'm thinking I'm going to get back, and I'm seeing guys who played 12, 13, 14 years crying like a baby, and I'm like, hold on, dude, and you don't realize how important it is until you can Google yourself, Google your name, Google your team, and you see that you're a part of history. And that's something, it's just like being drafted. Like, everybody wants that, and then it's like you got to make the best of your opportunity. So to have those moments and those memories, that's something that every football player dreams of, actually winning it. But the fact that you can walk out there and touch the grass, and you've been watching it from day one since you can remember playing football, and you're actually here. And I'll tell anybody that's ever been there, when you're watching at home and you hear the national anthem, you get somewhat emotional. But when you actually are there, and it does something to you. It's like when you're at a live game and the planes fly over. I mean, it's like, let's go, and just adrenaline rush. So the fact that we still have those memories, with guys you played with, the guys that were there, it's so special. And that's something that, that nobody can take away.
I remember standing in the tunnel in Tampa for the Super Bowl, and I'm just off the corner of the end zone, and I see Kurt Warner throw to Larry Fitzgerald, and Larry takes it off the complete opposite direction where I'm at, and I'm on the phone with the TV station, and I'm talking to the producer, and I'm like, we're going to win the Super Bowl. We're going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, the Cardinals, it was such an exciting moment. And I remember just watching that from that corner of the end zone, just off the field, and thinking, the Cardinals are going to win. The 9-7 Cardinals are going to win the Super Bowl and beat the Steelers. And then, of course, we all know what happened at the end.
But yeah, before that happened, I remember when he scored. I mean, you know, it's like everything was frozen in time. We're actually like, is there a flag? Because he's gone. He's gone. So everybody on the sideline, like, there's a flag. There got to be a flag. It's too free. And we see the crowd go bananas. And then Larry comes off. He's hysterical. He's crying. He's like enjoying. It's like what just happened? And he's holding on to the ball, and the equipment guy is trying to like yank the ball out of his hand. Larry's like, no, this is mine. And then, you know, after 30 seconds or so, we're all into it. We kick off, and then I'll never forget. Larry said this. Larry's like, then got the ball. You like, oh, you know, what's going to happen? And then you just watch them drive, and your heart, it's like you're literally getting your heart snatched out. You go from crying and celebrating. It's like somebody tells you you're about to win $100 million. If you can do this for 30 seconds, stand on one leg for 30 seconds, and all of a sudden you slip and you fall, and there it is.
It is. Yep.
And Clancy Pendergast lost his job because of that last drive in the Super Bowl. The Cardinals defensive coordinator.
It was some call. I mean, you know, being on the sideline, and that's what's rough as a player in that moment. Like, you know, we had a basic plan, basic scheme. The situation was the last two plays we had a safety that had no covering skill. He was a blitzer. It was almost like, well, once you put Adrian Wilson over there, he can do the job, even though Francisco was more quicker and he can accelerate more. But it's like, why do you have a safety basically playing our slot? And that's what led to, you know, when DRC tried to get over there and he got there. I mean, he still made a great play on it. Who's to say what could happen? But it's like, why did you put basically our 6th or 7th DB in that situation when nobody else was hurt? That's why we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel bad for Clancy. He lost his job because, I mean, he had a great game plan going in. You know, we did our job against I think they were the number 2 or number 3 offense. You know, we had to play that year.
Sure. But you got to make one stop, right?
Yeah.
You got to make one stop, and we can't do it. And it's just such a heartbreaking loss because even though that final touchdown of the Steelers, was he in, was he out? There was controversy surrounding that. At least here in Arizona there was. And but boy, there are those moments in time that you'll just never forget. And I'll never forget that, you know, being in the corner of the end zone and watching him run the opposite way and thinking, we are going to win the Super Bowl.
It haunts you in a good way, you know, because it's like, you know, you get kind of sad about it, but then again, it's like, you know, I was there when he did that. And one thing that, you know, definitely guys on that team is, like I tell Larry, whenever you get into the Hall of Fame, I know you can't mention a lot of names, but one day you're going to get there. But he's going to remember that play. He's going to remember that. And that's why I tell guys, like, it's special. When you're around special players like that, special teams like that, guys never forget. You know, no matter how far we go off in life, you know, guys still keep in touch. And I'm pretty sure that's a moment that he's always going to remember. I mean, it's like, if we would have won that game, you're talking about legendary.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would have been the shot of him just running. That's why I know if they get back there again today, he's going to do everything he can to be a part of that.
Oh, yeah.
Everything he can.
Let's go back to Tyrann Mathieu. Obviously, that's the story of the day right now and the story of the week. They lose Tyrann Mathieu. What's your takeaway, Jason, in terms of what he means to this defense and what they lose?
I mean, you know, you guys just mentioned the Super Bowl coming down to one defensive stand. I mean, you have to ask yourself a real question right now. How does this affect the Cardinals' chance at a Super Bowl this year? And I think it's huge. I mean, this is an elite defense, but it just lost one of its key players. And yes, we talk about last man up, but this was a very, very special player. Matter of fact, I just saw a tweet right here. Tyrann Mathieu ends his season as the highest rated cornerback in the NFL. Wow. It wasn't even close. He was graded at plus 28. Josh Norman was second at 14.
Wow.
I mean, this is one of the best corners in the NFL. Him going down for the rest of the season. You know what, guys? We have to ask ourselves, this season is rough, yes. We got to talk about next season. I mean, this is most likely, I'm assuming this is the same ACL.
Yeah.
He had a miraculous recovery. His first ACL was 8 months or something. How can we imagine he's going to come back that fast again if it's the same injury?
It's I mean, from his player makeup, mental makeup, I think he's going to be into it. You know, he holds no grudges. He's ready to go. But then we got to start talking about the business. He'll be an unrestricted free agent. You know, you got to worry about how much money do you invest in this situation. It's rough because this was a guy that was on his chance to literally break the bank, because it's like his fan base is there. He's playing out of his mind, and he's so good with the community. The folks love him.
Yeah.
And he's that guy he's like I said, he's like the little puppy.
Yeah.
That's always cute and friendly and all that stuff with the hair, but it's like that puppy can contend with any big dog.
Yep.
And that's what he brings. And to me, just his mental makeup, the way he goes out there and play, he reminds me of a young, even though they don't play the same position, how Dockett was in his third or fourth year, how he just transcended and he became this force, like he became the face of it. And, you know, we think of Calais Campbell, we think of Patrick Peterson, but the Honey Badger's name is all over it. Like, that's who you look for. You're like, okay, got to watch out for that guy.
Yeah.
And it's like the same thing with the Cardinals. Like, you knew about Adrian Wilson back in the day. You knew about Geno Hayes. You knew about Carlos Dance. You knew about those guys, but it was like, okay, where's 90 at?
Yep.
Where's 90 at? And that's the same impact that the Honey Badger got. The fact that he's out, it hurts.
You mentioned him being such a likable player.
Oh, yeah.
We got some of his teammates tweeting out. Tony Jefferson said, "I ain't cried since my Nana died. Love you, bro. Stay up."